Hey guys, David the Fishing Pastor here, and in a previous video we did a head-to-head reel comparison, but today we're comparing rods. So our comparison today is going to be between two casting rods. To start off with, we have the Manley Rods Gold Series rod versus the KastKing Perigee II rod. There are a couple reasons why I decided to do a comparison between these two rods. First off, they are my general all-purpose rods. So if I'm only going to take one rod and reel setup, it's going to be one of these two. And I pretty much throw just a wide variety of baits on them. Second of all, they are both very unique in their own way, and I thought it'd be kind of cool to do a comparison between the two. Really quickly, let me talk about the similarities between these two, because there are a couple, but not many. Number one, like I said, they're both casting rods. So I throw my bait casters onto these rods. Second of all, they are both medium heavy rods. And again, I like medium heavy kind of for my general all-purpose. They're not too light, they're not too heavy, they're just kind of right in the middle. But after that, they are very different and very unique. So starting off with the Manley Rods Gold Series rod. As I said earlier, it is a medium heavy rod, so it's kind of right in the middle there. It's my favorite general all-purpose power for a rod. But the action is a moderate fast, so technically it's actually a cranking rod because it has that good parabolic bend in the middle. So it does really well with baits that have treble hooks, like crankbaits and jerkbaits and things like that. It makes it harder for the fish to spit that hook when you have a good parabolic bend. So it is technically a cranking rod. But it's pretty nice. It's comfortable in the hand. It's relatively lightweight. I can fish with it for a good while and you know, not feel tired and not have my wrists or my hands feel tired because it's heavy. Again, it's a medium heavy rod, so it's not a broomstick or anything. But it's really nice. It has it's not a micro guide rod, but it has these the bottom guides are kind of interesting. They have the larger hole with the smaller one that extends a little bit, so it's an interesting rod. It's pretty nice. You know, and normally you would say, okay, well, what's so special about it? What makes it unique, honestly, is that it's actually a kayak rod, and so they designed that with the kayak fisherman in mind. So the cool thing about it is, you see this butt here. If I turn that, it can actually either go in or extend if I need it to. And again, they made that with the kayak fisherman in mind, that if you need it to be shorter, you need a shorter butt on that, then you can definitely put that in, and you can extend it if you need to. So it's a pretty unique rod because of that. And so because of that, it's actually two different lengths, or multiple different lengths actually. At its shortest, it is a 6'9" rod. And at its longest, it's a 7'3" rod. So, you know, again, it's just a kind of a really cool concept. It's something that I haven't really seen on any other rods, and something that I really like about it. If I'm on my kayak, you know, and I need it to be a little bit shorter so I can make some longer casts while I'm sitting or whatever, then I can do that. Or if I'm fishing from the bank or wherever, then I can extend it if I need to as well. But it handles baits pretty well, like I said. It throws about 1/4 ounce to 3/4 ounce baits, so nothing too heavy on there. But I use it again as kind of a general all-purpose rod, and I'll throw anything from crankbaits to jerk baits to, I mean, so many different baits that I'll throw on it, because it's again a general all-purpose. So this is the Manley Rods Gold Series rod. It's again a pretty interesting rod, and what makes it unique definitely is that that extending butt on there. Very comfortable. You can see it has the grip there. The handle itself is pretty nice. It's not super super soft, but it's comfortable. And then you have that part at the bottom where you can feel the blank, and that just increases the sensitivity as you're fishing. But again, a pretty decent rod that I've been using for some time now. So now let's talk about the KastKing Perigee II rod, because this rod is unique in its own way. Like I said earlier, it's a medium heavy rod, just like the Manley Rods Gold Series rod. You know, very, very comfortable as well. Also my general all-purpose, I'll throw a variety of baits on this rod. Same kind of kind of strength in lures, 1/4 ounce to 3/4 ounce, so it's the same as the Manley rods. Also very comfortable. The grip is actually a little bit softer, a little bit nicer to hold. Also has this part to keep your finger on when you're using the rod, and then has the part on the blank at the bottom where you can have some increased sensitivity. I didn't mention this for the other rod, but they both have bait keepers on them, where you can, you know, cling your lures to, so you're not doing that on the eyes of the rod itself. But again, just a really nice, comfortable, really great rod. Lightweight, you know, doesn't weigh a lot. It's a medium heavy. I can throw it all day. If I'm only taking one rod, one reel, I'm taking this one or the other one, one of the two. But this is just a really great all-around rod. The action is different on this one, as the Manley rods was a moderate fast. This is a fast action rod, so the bend is closer to the tip than it was on the other one. So the faster it is, the higher up the bend is on the rod. The slower it is, the further back the bend is. But again, I'm able to throw a variety of baits, and it handles them all really, really well. Now, what makes this rod truly unique is that, number one, it's my only two-piece casting rod. I don't have very many two-piece casting rods. A lot of people talk about the loss of power when you have two-piece rods, and that's probably really why I don't have many two-piece casting rods. But what's special about this rod is that even though it's a two-piece, where it joins together is very different, and how it joins together, it's a little bit different. It's more near the middle, and so you keep that power in the rod. There really isn't a loss of power on it. I don't feel any loss of power between this and any one-piece rods that I have. And then the really, really cool special thing about it is that it is a twin-tip rod. And that's something that I don't think exists with any other company except for KastKing, at least nothing that I've ever seen like that. And really what that means is that it's one rod with two tips, and so it has two different actions, or two different powers rather. So right now it's a medium heavy rod, but if I would remove the tip and put on the other one that it comes with, because it comes with the twin tips, then it turns into a medium power rod rather than a medium heavy rod. So if I need to downgrade that power a little bit, or I need to upgrade the power, then I can do that, and I can do it with one rod. I don't have to go grab a whole new rod. And so that's probably the most unique and special thing about this rod that I haven't seen anywhere else, that it is a twin tip rod, and it's two rods in one. Now that's just something that's super cool. I can pack it away. I can put it, you know, in my bag or whatever, and I can have the extra tip. So if I need to at some point switch up because, you know, a medium heavy is too heavy or a medium is too light, then I can switch it up if I need to. But that's just a really, really cool, unique feature about the Perigee II rod. Now let's compare the two a little bit and talk about some things that I've seen as I've used them, and then I'll talk about kind of which one I would recommend over the other. So now that we've talked about each rod individually, let's compare them to each other. And I'm going to start off with overall comfort, because to me, comfort is really important. You know, I'm using it all day. You know, which one feels better in my hand, which one's going to tire me out, which one is, you know, uncomfortable for my hand, things like that. And this one may be a little bit more preference than anything else, but, you know, again, comfort is important. So, you know, looking at the two, feeling the two, I'm going to say the Manley rods is slightly lighter, which is nice. It's a little bit of a lighter rod, so I'm going to give it a point for being lighter. But overall comfort, which one feels better in my hand, I'm going to give that to the Perigee II rod. I really like how it feels. Yeah, I'm going to give that to the Perigee II rod. So now they're tied at 1 point each. Next, I'm going to look at power and action, and like I said, they're both medium heavy rods, but the action is different. One, like I said, is a moderate fast, and one is a fast. But looking at them both, the Manley rods is a little bit more noodly. For a medium heavy rod, I want a little bit more backbone, so I'm going to give the overall power and action over to the Perigee II rod. You know, when a medium heavy rod, if it's a medium rod, then I expect a little bit more of a noodle. And granted, this is more of a cranking rod, but at the end of the day, for overall general purpose, I'm going to go with the Perigee II rod for power and action. So now I'm going to look at durability, which is one that's really surprising to me. And right off the bat, I'm going to give the Perigee II rod another point because it is less than half the price of the Manley Gold Series rod. Yeah, I'm gonna this one retails at about $59.99, the Perigee II rod, I believe, and then the Manley rod is about $140, so it's more than double the price. Now, talking about the durability, it's something really interesting, and granted, I have had the Gold Series rod longer than the Perigee II rod, but I do put them through the same strain, through the same conditions. I take care of them in the same way. I clean them. They're always in rod socks, things like that. And a couple things happened with the Gold Series rod, and it wasn't recently. This was actually within maybe 2 or 3 months of use. First of all, one of the eyes actually broke off, one of the guides here, and I have never had another rod with a guide that broke off just like that. I didn't hit it on anything. It wasn't, I don't know what it was, but the guide just broke off. And for a rod that's, you know, over $100, I really expect it to do a lot better than that. And again, this wasn't a recent thing. This was within the first few months of using it. The eye just broke off one day. And I think really what has to do with that, and as I look at both rods, the guides are put on very differently. And on the Manley rods, you can see it has the one binding at the bottom there, and then with the Perigee II rod, these Fuji guides, they have double binding, so they have one on the bottom and one on top, so they really don't move. They're incredibly durable, and you can feel that just by touching them. These actually kind of move around because of that single binding there, so I can kind of see why it did that. But for a more expensive rod, I would just expect better. On top of that, one day while I was out fishing, mind you, and I guess, you know, the same thing with the eye, but the butt just fell off. Yeah, I was on my kayak, and thank God it didn't fall in the water. But it just fell off as I was using it, and I couldn't use it really for the rest of the day. It was really annoying because I couldn't go back and get another rod. So I ended up putting some adhesive. Since then, it hasn't come off because I put some really good adhesive on there. But again, just for a more expensive rod, I would really expect better manufacturing. I'd expect a better build and more durability. So for sure, I'm going with the Perigee II rod and durability. I can just see it in the build itself of the rod. You can see how well done it is. Really, it's for a less expensive rod, you can see that the build is much better on it. So lastly, I'm going to talk about detail. Now, detail again is something that's really more preference than anything else, but I think it's important. It doesn't necessarily contribute to the functionality of the rod necessarily, so it's not a huge thing. But to me, you know, when I see detail on a rod, it says we care about the rod. It says that we have thought about everything. It says, you know, it's important to us. It's not just pumping out rods. It's putting the time and the effort and really looking at the design and stuff. And that's something that I find really interesting and really important. I look at that and I look for that. You know, and so it's just, I'm a detail person. I love to see the little details and things. So looking at them both, you know, the Manley rods has some nice gold trim along it, just kind of randomly, and then these pieces here have a nice gold trim, and you know, they feel pretty good here. It's nice, you know, it kind of shines and stands out, and I do like the eye here. This is kind of an interesting one with the larger and smaller hole. I don't know what you call these exactly, but you know, some pretty nice detail on it. It has their logo and their stamp, and you know, all the words on the back, and it's pretty decent. You know, it's, you know, kind of a general rod. But when I look at the KastKing one, this is something that really blows me away, especially again for inexpensive rods, that the detail is so cool. Number one, it has the stamp there on the butt of the rod of KastKing, their logo. It has the KastKing brand there, which is, you know, pretty much general, and then the name of the rod, and on the back the writing, same thing. But even here, the bait keeper itself has the logo of the company, which is it a huge deal? Does it improve its quality of you know, of its functionality? Absolutely not. It has nothing to do with that, but it just tells me they've looked at that. They've seen the details. It matters to them, and it matters what the rod looks like. And I like that. That may not be important to you, and that's totally okay if it isn't. But I feel like if it's a you know, something important to me, so I'm gonna give the Perigee II rod a point for that. All right, there you go. You know, in my opinion, I give it to the Perigee II rod, but really that is just my opinion and my preference. I really highly encourage you to get out and do your own comparisons and do your own tests and find out what works best for you. But thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. Remember to like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and as always, pray, fish, repeat. God bless. I'll see you in my next video.